Hey, welcome back to another episode of After the Static. I'm Arthur Price. I'm here with John Auber.
Hey.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about the relaxation ritual that we had talked about last time, just to get a little progress update on that. And then we'll get more into some other topics. So, John, do you have any update on your thoughts about doing the relaxation ritual throughout the week?
Yeah, so wasn't anything major, just really quick. It's just I found it definitely did help with getting into a meditative state. That's kind of more what I used it for this last week of just trying to every day sit down when I wanted to meditate, and I would start it with the relaxation ritual, and it kind of helped me put me more quickly into a state of relaxation and more state of like aware of my body, if that makes sense. Because I feel like when you start meditating, you always kind of go through this state of you start to itch, like your body starts to like recognize like all the places that start to itch, and like all these little things. And like I feel like when you do the relaxation ritual beforehand, it kind of helps your body ease into that during that part. And then when you go to meditate, you're already like in a prep state for the meditation, which definitely helped me a lot. I don't know why. So I feel like meditation is one of those things, same with like doing the relaxation ritual, is like one of those things that it's like working out where you know it's good for you and it's great every time you do it. You're like, oh, why don't I do this every day? And then you just don't do it for some reason. I feel like I need to schedule it into my day, like have an exact time of like, oh, I need to start it at this time and do it, which seems kind of weird to have to schedule relaxation, but I feel like you kind of have to do that. At least I do. Otherwise, I just get busy and just don't do things. So
Yeah.
I that's kind of
Easy
the
to
experience I
forget,
have.
right?
Yeah, but every time I did it this week, it was like, oh, why don't I always do this? Because it helped center me and set me in a place where it's like, okay, like live in the moment. It helped me kind of live in the moment and
Mm.
get rid of some of that anxiety and all the outside voices that are in my head. And so, yeah, that's kind of the experience that I had with it.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was similar. You did yours not laying down for sleep, right? You were just doing it throughout the day.
Yeah, I actually set up a chair. I've been looking for a reading chair to put in my office to help me with my reading more. Because right now I'm just doing it in front of my computer, which I get distracted a lot when I do that. So I've been looking for a reading chair, but until then I just have like a fold out chair. So I've been setting it up in the office behind me, and I just will sit there and center myself and relax. I also found that it helps if you burn incense or a candle, like a scented candle, something like that, because it
Yeah.
kind of fills one of your extra senses with something to like relax you.
How long did you try to do that for throughout the day? Half hour or
Usually,
20 minutes?
usually it's about 20 minutes. Yeah.
Is that like meditating and reading? You said it was a reading chair as well?
Well, no. So the reading is just I find myself like I sit in this chair when I read. I just get distracted on in front of my
Oh,
computer.
okay.
So I've just been
Yeah,
setting
yeah.
up like a uncomfortable fold out chair, just specifically for meditating in. Because when I find that I sit on the ground, my dog somehow senses that I'm on the ground and will burst in here and start jumping on me and want to play. And so for some reason, I don't know how he senses it, but he just knows. So I just set up an actual chair and sit in it and meditate there.
So did you do 20 minutes of meditation or was it 20 minutes of meditation and reading?
Oh no, this is just meditation.
Oh, okay. So about 20 minutes a day.
Yeah. I missed, I think, one day, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so my experience was similar. Um I think it helps center me. I tried doing it during the day and not laying down. Some days I just forgot to do it. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it when I'm about to go to sleep. But the days I did it during the day, just taking a break from work and trying to go through that relaxation ritual process, I feel like that helped me just kind of mellow out. And I think it even made me maybe more productive at work when I was done because I didn't feel as stressed out about things. And I felt like I could focus more on individual tasks easier. But I didn't write anything down in a journal, like a meditation journal or anything like that, but I wrote a couple of dreams down in my dream journal. And that's a hard process for me to do, is when I wake up in the morning, because I wake up pretty early and I go to work early. So having that second or two of writing down your dream that you just had the night before, sometimes I don't get to that and then I'll forget about it. Um, but I feel like that's been helpful. I go back and I read some of them and I think, oh man, I really dreamt about that. That's weird.
See,
But have you been doing the dream journal at all, or?
I haven't been. I need to. I think for me to be able to really do the dream journal, like you said, it's like with your schedule. Like I don't have a schedule very much. I just kind of pass out
Mm.
when I pass out, wake up when I wake up, and so it's kind of hard to remind myself to do the dream journal when I do that, when I live that way. So I'm actually going to be trying once again to set like an actual schedule for myself, a sleep schedule for myself. And when I do that, I'm going to try to do the dream journal at the same time. Um, One thing that I kind of thought about though that I wanted to ask you about, if this is more of a personal experience or if you've kind of experienced this as well. It was something that I thought about more like after I was meditating, and I don't know what prompted it, but I thought about, I grew up like in a religious family. I grew up like knowing a lot of people that were like in religion, like in different religions, and I feel like as I get older, more and more of us have, are kind of like leaving the religions that we grew up in and finding our own ways and finding our own things that we believe. But out of all
Yeah.
the people that have done that, I feel like myself and my wife are really the only ones that didn't go straight just to atheism, where it was like a hard reset of fully believing in an afterlife and believing in a spiritual realm and basically all these other things, and then in a god, and then straight to none of that is true, all of it's fake, all of it's a lie. With atheism,
Mm.
which I granted, like I admit, may be the case, and maybe these experiences I have are just mental hallucinations, or shared hallucinations when I've had them with other people, like that. Maybe that's the case,
It's
but
a possibility, I guess, right?
it's definitely. I'm not ruling it out, and I'm fine with that. Like if I die and there's nothing, like cool, that sounds great. I don't, like I won't know. It doesn't matter. But it just kind of surprised me how many people I know that have had strong super. I won't even say spiritual. I'd say supernatural, like supernatural experiences, like experiences that you can't explain just through straight science, and they still will be like flipped atheism, and they won't address, like I'll try to bring those experiences up to them, and they just like won't address them. They'll just like change the subject, like they
Mm.
can't. It's like their new worldview can't process that experience that they had being part of their existence because they can't explain it. It's like if their mind can't process the reality of the fact that the religion they are in is false, like it was just a scam to get money and power out of them. But that doesn't mean that there is
All of
nothing.
it's false.
That doesn't mean that there's no, there's that extraterrestrials don't exist, that spirits don't exist, that there's not other dimensions, that there's not like a spiritual reality to their life. And I feel like that's
Yeah.
instantly where they go. And sorry, I feel like I've been rambling for a while, but does that
No,
make
you're
sense?
good.
What I'm asking? I find it
Yeah.
just kind of strange how they switch, and I didn't switch. Like I recognized that what I was, studying before and what I was believing in growing up was false, but that doesn't mean that there isn't more out there that I don't understand, and that it's all just bullshit.
So yeah, I have a couple of thoughts, I guess, on that. Very interesting that a lot of people that I know, and maybe it's just people who come from, I don't know if you want to call them cults, but hardcore religions, right?
Yeah. Religions where it's a day to day, because I feel like there's
Like
some
the
religions where it's like, oh, it's a
yeah.
Sunday religion where it's more about just the
Mm.
community, and then I feel like then there's religions where it's like, no, this dictates every part of your life. Like this is a day to day
So
part of your life.
the Mormon church is like that, where they have a lot of rules and regulations around what their members are supposed to do and not do, and all that. So, a lot of people in my family were involved in that church, um, my brother included, and that's interesting. That I bet if you were to ask him while he was going to church, like he went on a mission for the church and he was heavily into it. I bet he would say he had some spiritual experiences in that. And I'd be interested to hear what he would have to say on how he would explain those now, because now he's more of I believe he's more of an atheist. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he said to me before that he is an atheist. So it'd be interesting to see what his explanation would be behind those experiences with his worldview the way it is now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Probably just something with the mind, I guess. You'd probably just say, "Oh, it was just in my head," or. But yeah, but then you have that point of like shared experiences.
Yeah. And there's shared experiences where you experience it with somebody else, and it's like I can't fully explain that. And also, if these are, hallucinations or mental things, like why am I not having, why am I not more crazy? I guess like if there are like, because I've had, like my day-to-day life is normal, and I only experience, I guess, like spiritualistic experiences when I seek them out, or there's something out of the ordinary that happens to me that would cause them. Like they're never just like if I like you'd think if I was crazy, like if I was having hallucinations and things like that, that it would happen just as I live my life and I'm just going about my day. But it doesn't. It only happens if I start reading more about certain rituals that I want to do, or start reading about, start meditating a lot, trying to enter the spiritual realm and trying to leave my body with my spirit and to kind of walk into that realm and experience things and come back. When I try to experience those things, I do start experiencing that. But I feel like if I was crazy, that I would not experience it. Like I would experience it all the time, like at random times, but I'm not trying to. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I have a hard time with grasping the concept of atheism. I went to a lot of different churches growing up, and sometimes no church, and I've been Southern Baptist and born again Christian and Muslim and just Christian and then Mormon, and now I would just classify myself as just a Christian, just somebody who believes in Jesus Christ and wants to be more like him. But I throughout all of my life, I've never thought that there wasn't a greater power. I've always thought of there being something, whether that's God or whatever you want to call that, global consciousness. It's hard for me to grasp the idea that there is nothing. I feel like that's kind of a I don't know, self-centered view, where you feel that you make your own way through life. Like there's nobody you have to answer to. There's no greater plan. It's just all about you. Same thing with like aliens, right? I feel like that's kind of a self-centered viewpoint to say, oh, there's no aliens in the entire universe. There's no other beings out there who have intelligence like us. And I just can't grasp that concept. I don't know. But I've always believed in a higher power for sure. So my brother and I, we went to Vegas to go to Evo. Was it last weekend or 2 weekends ago or something?
Yeah.
And that's why we had to skip a week on the podcast. But we had some interesting conversations a little bit about this stuff on the way up to Vegas. And he was asking me about the church that I go to now. So right now I go to a church called PVC, the Palm Valley Church, I think is what it's called. And they're non-denominational, so it's not like Catholic or Mormon or whatever. It's just you just show up every Sunday. They have good music, and they teach a lesson about Jesus Christ, and then you go home. Like it's super chill and relaxed vibe. And um, my brother was asking me about about the church and stuff, which was cool. And I was telling him about it, and he couldn't grasp the concept of non-denominational. He's very stuck on, oh well, what's the hook or what's the ritual or whatever that this church does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I was just telling him like, well, you just show up and they sing and then they talk about Christ and then you leave. Like there's no extra stuff to it. And he had a hard time grasping that concept, but it was cool. We had a good conversation about it.
See, I feel like I have a hard time with anything that's non-denominational, not for the reason that your brother does, where it's hard for me to grasp it, but it's more for the fact of I guess I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. Like it's like if you're like, oh well, like if you're like, oh well, I go to this non-denominational church. It's like, well, why if they don't like I guess for me like the purpose of religion is to find universal truths, to find truths of the universe, of how the universe works and how God works within it and how you work within the universe. Like that is the purpose of religion for me, is to better understand the universe that I exist in and my relation to the other beings, whether we call them gods or each other or extraterrestrials or whatever they are, like other beings within the universe, and my place within all of that. And so if the religion in question doesn't offer that to me, I don't see any
Mm.
point in it. Like I'm not interested. I'm like, so I'm just gonna come and sing songs and talk about a guy who just didn't like the Romans. Like what? Like I don't see a point to that. It's like no, I don't give a shit. Like I don't want to sing songs. I don't want to talk about this guy who walked around and preached against the Romans a long time ago. Like I don't care. Like that's not like I'm not Jewish. That has nothing to do with me. The you know like the things that Christ did during his time have nothing to do with me. Like I don't care about that. Like that's nothing, doesn't interest me like in the slightest. And so it's like and I've never had any kind of experience that specifically like you talked about like Christians like Christ. Like I've had experiences with entities that I would consider demons. There's entities that I would consider angels that and things like that that I feel like I've had experiences with. I've never had any experience or any inkling of anything that would lead me to think of a Christ or like of
Mm.
him. Like I've never had any experience of Christ or of him in my life at all. Even when I was in a religion that fully worshipped him, at no part did I ever have any kind of personal interaction or relationship with him or any evidence that proved he had anything to do with the universe at all. So until that changes, I don't care about it. Is kind of how I think about it. And so for me, it's just I'd be interested to talk with people that have gone full from like fully religious to full atheist about these experiences they have and how if they don't believe in anything spiritual anymore, how they would explain those things. And instead of, and not just writing them off as like, oh well, it's just a trick of the mind. It's like no. Break down the specific experience that you had, and let's go through it. Like, don't let's not dismiss it and be like, well, it's a trick of. If it was a trick of the mind, how was it a trick of the mind? Like,
Right.
let's go. Like, because if it was a trick of the mind, you had a full on mental break, and we should probably talk about that. You know, like it's like okay, like then that's a serious issue if it was a trick of your mind. So that's the thing that interests me with that is people's brains of how they work with understanding that. And maybe part of it is just accepting that there's some things you don't understand. And that I feel like is something I've gotten a lot more comfortable with as I've gotten older, is accepting that there's certain things within the universe that we simply can't comprehend right now, that I don't understand, and still using those things to our advantage. And that's one thing that I feel like through studying Aleister Crowley, I've really like has helped me is like when people have used the term like magic, for example, like within the like occultism, magic is really just science that we can't understand yet. It's something like that we know it works. We can do a certain ritual or certain practice or a certain thing, and there is an effect, but don't know why. We don't know how. So we don't understand that part of the universe yet. So we simply call it magic. It'd be like if, for example, like you brought a caveman to today's time and you switched on a light switch. He could understand that, oh, if I hit this thing and I make it go, if I move it up, there's light. But getting him to understand electricity and how that actually works, it's beyond him. Like he can't understand it at that time. So at that point, to him, that technology is just magic because his brain can't comprehend that yet. And so whenever I'm talking to people who, you know, it's very rare that I do talk to people about my religious beliefs and like occultism and magic, things like that. But I have talked to people about it who kind of see me reading a book like Philosophy of Magic and things like that, where they're like, "Why are you reading a book about magic? It seems kind of retarded." And it's kind of like, well, I feel like I have to have this conversation over and explain. It's like it's one of those. It's like a word. It's like a thing that I wish there was a better word for it. I wish there was a better word than using the word magic, because every time you use that, people just think of it as fireballs and Harry Potter instead of just the science of the universe that we don't understand, but we know that if we follow these acts and these practices, that there is an effect. There's something that happens.
So, would you mind talking a little bit about, because I think some people might not know who Aleister Crowley is. So he was an occultist, right?
Yeah. So I think most people know who Aleister Crowley is, but yeah, Aleister Crowley was an occultist.
I didn't know until after I met you.
So here, so if you, so this book right here is like the main thing. He's written quite a few books. I think I have a few other ones right here. I have a few others, but the main book of his is Liber Book 4, Magic Book 4. That's his big main book that I'd say you definitely research, look into if you're interested in religion and theology and occultism, and more in the practical effect, because Aleister Crowley was basically somebody who wasn't so much as interested in the philosophy of magic and the universe. He was more interested in like religion. He was more interested in the practical effect of what can I do to gain more power and gain more influence and like basically better my life and gain more power and knowledge. He wanted basically power and knowledge. And so he practiced, he basically did what like a lot of cultists do, where they test things, where they go, okay, like this ancient religion teaches this, let's try it. This teaches this, let's try it. And even if it seems silly or crazy, it's like, well, let's draw a magic circle and do the steps that it says to do, and let's practice these things. And because of that, he was a lot of the times, back in the day, they basically just said, "Oh, you're a devil worshiper," or things like that, which he wasn't at all. But he would play into that, and he would say, like, he very much would kind of get frustrated with people and just be like, "Oh yes, I do worship the devil, and I am the devil, blah blah 666." And he'd basically do that just to get people to fuck off, because he knew that they weren't going to understand the difference between, trying to contact some ancient Egyptian god and worshiping the devil, because these Christian people were just basically stupid and didn't understand that there was more to the world and religion and philosophy than just God and Christ and the devil. It's like, no, there's a lot more entities, there's a lot more gods, there's lots more to the universe and to religion than just that.
And he founded his own religion, right? Thelema.
Yeah, Thelema. Which, if I did have to say, like, the closest I am to anything would be Thelema, but there are some of their practices and there's some of the things I don't fully agree with. So I wouldn't consider myself a practitioner of that. But yeah, I would say my favorite thing about Thelema is their concept of basically the purpose of life, of like the purpose of their religion and the purpose of life is to find what I'm trying to remember the word that they use for it, but basically what your true purpose in life is.
Yeah, it says here that essential to Thelema is the concept of discovering and following one's true will.
True will, that's
and
it.
Divine and individual purpose that transcends ordinary desires.
Yes, and then anything outside
Yeah.
of that, you should follow the rule of love. Is basically what they teach. So
He said,
basically, so go ahead.
oh, sorry. It says Crowley's system begins with the Book of Law, a text he maintained was
You're talking with
dedicated to
Aiwass,
him,
yeah,
well, it was dictated to him by
Aiwass.
a non corporeal entity named Aiwass. So he wrote this book, and
Yeah,
that was dictated to him by
I
this
have it on.
Aiwass person.
Yeah, I have it on my bookshelf. So this leads to a whole other thing. Have you seen Aiwass? Do you know what he looks like? So
No.
Aleister Crowley did a sketch of Aiwass, um, and here I just sent it to you. I just pulled it up, sent it to you really quick. This is what he said Aiwass looked like. Do you want to pull that
Let
up?
me pull it up. Oh, weird.
Look familiar at all?
Looks like a gray, like a maybe a gray, but
Yeah, looks like a gray.
smaller eyes.
Well, so
Yeah.
you have to, yeah. So it's basically a gray, like is what it looks like. His eyes are a little bit different, and but other than that, that's a gray. And this is
Yeah.
obviously before like UFOs, before extraterrestrial, like before the grays, like before any of that, where people where that was in the like in the culture. He saw this entity that he did a ritual to communicate with to be able to gain knowledge, and this entity came to him. It was named Aiwass and taught him things, and he dictated it and things that I taught him, and he wrote it in the Book of the Law. I would actually
So
love. I have that book. I'd love to read it with you sometime, and we could talk about it.
yeah, it says Crowley described the encounter in detail in his book, The Equinox of the Gods,
Yeah.
talking about, I think, the first time he met him or something. If you want, I could just read the little excerpt from that.
Yeah, go for it.
So it says, the voice of Aiwass came apparently from over my left shoulder, from the furthest corner of the room. It seemed to echo itself in my physical heart in a very strange manner, hard to describe. I have noticed a similar phenomenon when I have been waiting for a message fraught with great hope or dread. So, like, anticipation, maybe? What do you think
So,
he's talking about there?
so
Fraught with great hope or dread. I have noticed a similar phenomenon when I have been waiting for a message fraught. So, nervous, maybe? I don't know.
yeah.
He goes on to say the voice was passionately poured as if Aiwass were alert about the time limit. The voice was of deep timbre, musical and expressive. Its tones solemn, voluptuous, tender, fierce, or aught else as suited the moods of the message. Not bass, perhaps a rich tenor or baritone. The English was free of either native or foreign accent, perfectly pure of local or mannerisms, thus startling and even uncanny at first hearing. I had a strong impression that the speaker was actually in the corner where he seemed to be, in a body of fine matter, transparent as a veil of gauze or a cloud of incense smoke. He seemed to be a tall, dark man in his 30s, well knit, active, and strong, with the face of a savage king and eyes veiled, lest their gaze should destroy what they saw. The dress was not Arab. It suggested Assyria or Persia, but very vaguely. I took little note of it, for to me at the time, Aiwass was an angel, such as I had often seen in visions, a being purely astral. A lot to process from that, but
So the one this is actually
that doesn't look like the. Let me pull up the image. That doesn't sound. Doesn't look like the image you posted. I guess it does a little bit.
so
I guess if his eyes
this.
were veiled, he couldn't really see them.
Yeah. So reading this, well, no, Aleister Crowley's eyes weren't veiled. They say the Aiwass's eyes were veiled.
Well, I know, but in the picture he drew the eyes, but
Yeah,
Maybe he just did the best he could with those. Who knows?
yeah. Um, this recounting that you just read is actually one of the things that interested me first when I first started researching Aleister Crowley. I read this, and it was identical to a situation I had in the fact of the visual, where he describes how he was in kind of like a mist, like a how does he describe it? What's the words he uses there?
Fine matter.
Fine matter. And
Yeah.
that is the closest description I've ever seen to what it looks like visually when I mean, no, I'm going to sound like crazy. I'm going to sound crazy here, but I'm just going to say it. When a demon or an entity starts to materialize in the physical realm, that's exactly what it looks like. Like,
Mm.
and I'd had this experience before I read this of an entity who started materializing with me and another person I was with, and this is why I talk about shared experiences. Another man I was with, and an entity started materializing, and it was also in a dark corner of the room, and it started to materialize and become more and more solid. Now I got out of there before it fully materialized because I didn't want any of that. But that description of it is the best description I could give. Like if you were asked me to be more eloquent in my speech, like if you gave me the ability to be more eloquent in my speech and I had to describe the thing that I saw, it's exactly what he just described. Not
Yeah, I
in that it's
wonder
the
if
same, not in the it's the same entity, but in the fact of how an entity would materialize into our realm if it was made out of this finer matter.
I've never had anything vocalize anything to me though. So he talks about how it was talking to him, right? And the voice
Mm-hmm.
was musical and expressive. A kind of a mixture of everything, tender and fierce and all that. So it wasn't just something he was thinking in his head, right?
Mm-hmm.
It had to have been spoken aloud. So I've never had any experience like that.
Yeah, and so this, along with several other things
Mm.
that Aleister Crowley have written, has is kind of what drew me to him to think of like, okay, this guy is legitimate because he explains situations that I'd previously experienced, and he also explains things that I've had other people, like other religious leaders and other people, talk about um, that he matched up with. Like one was how to tell the difference between an entity that, and I'm going to use these terms of like demon and angel, but it's, you know, like I don't really see it that way. I see it as there just being these other entities in the universe, but I don't have a better word for it, so that's the words I'm going to
Right.
use. It's just
Well,
I
like
just
you
want to
can get
state that.
I think you can get a general vibe of like whether something's evil or
Yes.
not,
Yeah, but
right? Like we've had, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say we've had experiences about seeing entities or feeling entities like the knocker or the looker.
Yeah.
What do you call that guy? The stare.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
That dickhead. And but you can definitely feel there's a weird vibe. You know,
It's
you feel uneasy. So
it's
if people want to call
malicious.
that demons, that's fine. But
You sense that it's
yeah,
malicious off the bat. There's
yeah,
no
yeah,
question of whether it's malicious or not. It's like you don't have to communicate with it to find out if it's malicious. It's just
you
you
just feel it.
instinctively
You're
know.
like, oh, that's not good. Yeah,
Yeah, it's as if there's a predator in the room that wants to
right.
eat you, is what it feels like. And
Yeah,
but there are ones that are more subtle than that. Those are the ones that, you know, not all of them are that way. And so one of the ways that you can tell if there's an entity that if it says that it is an angel, for example, you can ask to shake its hand and basically just touch it. If it is a very
and is
powerful,
it? Sorry, is this from a book or something?
yeah. So this is Aleister Crowley talked about this. Joseph Smith from the Mormon Religion talked about this. Brigham Young from the Mormon Religion talked about this, and then also several other occultists have referred to this. But it's something that I've seen across multiple religions, and multiple occultists have referred to this same thing, and it's something that I believe is true, basically,
Dude, it's
of
so
how to
hard.
tell
It's
the
so
difference
hard
between the
to
two.
sift through the bullshit on that because bringing up Joseph Smith, it's like he says he's had some existential experiences and communicated with angels and other beings, but then he also says he wrote the Book of Mormon with a rock and a hat.
Yeah.
And so it's
So we
I
can
don't know, man.
get into my feelings on fully on him later. But
I'm just
the
saying,
short
like, it's
no,
hard
by
to be like, oh, he said this, so
yeah, no.
it falls in line with other. It's like,
Well,
take
no.
it with a grain of
I
salt.
would, it is definitely take it with a grain of salt. But what
Yeah,
I'm saying is, there's when enough dots, it creates a line. Like when there's enough points of things that also
similar
correlate, similar
experiences, sure.
experiences that also correlate with experiences that I've had, things like that make sense. And there's enough knowledge that I feel like I won't fully get into Joseph Smith, but with Joseph Smith, I feel
Right.
like he did the short gist of it is I feel like he either had some experiences and then exploited those experiences and lied about everything else in order to give himself money and power and women,
I think
or
that's probably how it happened. Yeah,
he didn't experience anything and he simply studied because he's much more intelligent than people
that's
make
true.
him out to be. So he studied and read these things and read occult documents and read
Yeah,
occult manuscripts and studied how these things actually work. And then he lied about
yeah.
himself having those experiences and he created a system again for that same purpose of money, power, and women. But in the end, either way, he was a liar who abused
Right.
abused his position to get money and power and women. Like that's, in my opinion,
Yeah,
without question.
I think it's man, it's so hard to say.
But we don't
I
know
wonder
because
if it's
we'll never know unless we're there.
right. I would assume that he probably had one or two spiritual experiences, studied about those things, and then talked to some people about it. They got super into it. He made up some stuff, and then it kind of got carried away from him. And then he's like, "Oh, I guess I could just use this to make money,
Yeah,
or I
I
could use
think
this for not maybe if it wasn't money, maybe it was power and control or something along those lines, right? Like,
yeah,
so
I think that's what happened.
I'd say it's a mix.
Yeah, but my
Yeah.
point of bringing that up is they talk about specific something if you have an entity that is claiming to be an angel, it's telling you that it is an angel. If you ask to touch it and you touch its hand, if it has a physical form, like a physical body that you can actually touch and it feels like a human body, that it's confirming that it's an angel. Because basically, angels have a physical form; they have an actual body, whereas these demons entities either don't have physical bodies or they don't have physical bodies in the way that we think of them, like they're not of our dimension, not of our realm. So when they do form themselves, it's very much like gathering other matter. When it talked about like that mist form, I think what's happening there, and this is just pure conjecture, but I believe what is happening there is it's gathering matter in that vicinity and commanding that matter and using it to make itself a physical body or a physical form. But because it has limited power, it can't really make a solid full physical form. That, let's say, maybe like Lucifer might be able to do something like that, but majority of them can't do that. And so it becomes very misty and very like translucent because it's more loose particles and kind of a mist particles making up a form rather than a solid. So even if you did feel something, it would feel wrong. It'd feel misty. It'd feel kind of wet, and it'd feel like oh, this is it doesn't feel like a normal, just solid person.
Right.
And so
So if you were to ask if you could shake its hand, like what would if it were an angel,
you would
would
lie.
the response
Oh,
be
if
sure?
it no, yeah.
Or
So if it were an angel, it would actually do it. There's also other like signs and things like that I won't go into, but there's other like basically tests that you can do to be able to confirm and things like that. But yeah, but
did
it'll
it
just shake your
sorry.
head.
Do you know when he had this experience, was he doing any kind of ritual or was he just writing his book and then it just showed up?
Aleister Crowley?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was purposely trying. I'd have to look up the exact specifics of it again, but he was purposely trying to
So
somehow.
he was doing something. Okay.
He was always doing something. He was very much like,
Well,
but yeah.
from what I read, it kind of made it sound like he was right in the middle of writing his book, and then this
Maybe I'd have to look it up
angel
again.
or whatever showed up.
I'd have to look it up again. But from what I remember, he purposely was trying to summon something, and then he wrote this. But I could be wrong. I'd have to look it up the specifics again.
That's something I'd like to try, just to see if it's bullshit or not.
Is summoning something?
Yeah, just trying it out, like
Yeah.
seeing if anything happens.
So
You know.
yeah, we can talk about that off air a little bit. There's basically some precautions you're gonna want to take for that. But yeah, no, you definitely can. And I fully believe it'll work. So but one of the
We'll
things
see.
too. So one of the things that people again also with religion and occultism and all of this kind of stuff. One mistake that I think people make is they are doubting so much of everything that they don't fully research how things really work. They just jump in and they just go, "Well, I'll just try this," and then it doesn't work, and they're like, "Oh, see, it's all bullshit." It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, if you know, if it's like if you're a scientist again, if you think about it more like in science, if you're like,
Right.
if somebody was teaching, somebody back, about magnets and magnetism, and this is a new concept to them, and there's no proof in the world about magnets and magnetism, and you're like, oh, so you just take two pieces of metal, and then they just attract to each other. Oh, I'll just grab two pieces of metal. See, look, oh, look, they're falling to the earth. Like that doesn't work. Magnetism is bullshit. It's like, okay, like yeah, all right. At that point, like yeah, whatever, dude. All right, see, oh yeah, see, I have these two pieces of metal. They're not sticking to each other. See, it's like okay, you don't
Hmm.
understand it. That doesn't mean it's bullshit. And it's the same thing with religion and theology and occultism and rituals. Is I feel like that's the most common thing I see is when I ask people like, oh well, I tried stuff and it didn't work. They're like, what did you do? And then they tell me, and it's like, oh, so you did nothing. Like you sat down and like prayed. Okay,
Hmm.
so you literally just sat down and talked to the wind. Cool story, bro. Like, yeah, no wonder nothing happened. You didn't do anything. And so it's if you don't know what you're doing, and if you just try some random thing and then write it off, then you're not going to get an answer. You actually have to study. You have to do it, and then when you try it, it still may not work because things don't work every time. And then you have to try it a few times, and then they work. And that's one thing that I feel like I've argued a lot with people on is people that go, oh well, why don't we have miracles anymore? Why don't we see angels anymore? Why do we see these things? And that are like specifically that are religious people that like believe in the Bible will say these things.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, let's look at one of the stories. Bring up like any random story of somebody that encountered an angel and like Moses or like anybody that encountered God or an angel or had some of these crazy experiences. What preceded that? What did they do? Oh, they fasted for a month and like walked through the desert and they sacrificed a goat every day for a year and they bathed in its blood and they did it's like okay, so what have you done? Oh, you sat down, you fasted for one meal, then prayed. Okay, well yeah, that's not the same thing, man. Like this guy was 80 years old and spent his entire life worshiping this god and doing everything that he thought this god wanted him to do, and went to the extent that he was to the point of ruining his whole life, sacrificing things for it, and then he experienced something. So if you want to correlate those two, it's like you're not the same. You're not Abraham. Like no,
Right. Right.
it's like you haven't done the things that would lead to a result. And so now, if you want to say, oh, well, that's unrealistic, like I can't be expected to do those things, all right, cool. Then you can't expect to have those kinds of experiences. Because if you want an extreme experience, you have to have extreme commitment and you have to do extreme things.
Yeah, the Bible would be interesting to for us to kind of talk about. I read the Old Testament or trying to read the Old Testament from cover to cover, and it's a hard read, dude. For sure, it's a hard read.
How
There's
so?
just a lot of boring stuff in there.
Yeah. He
So
begat he and things like that. Well, so,
yeah, as soon as you get to those, it's like, oof, that's rough.
see, I
And
guess, I guess,
some of the things,
go
oh,
ahead.
good.
No, 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 go ahead.
There's a lot of like missing pieces for me, like the how God created the universe and the Earth is very. It's not very descriptive for such a big event. I feel like it could be more descriptive.
Yeah.
I wish it had more of like how it actually happened and what exactly is this and that. And then if you look at like Adam and Eve, and then they had their kids, which were Cain and Abel, right? Um, I don't know if I remember it correctly, but it seems like it goes from 6 people, and then the next chapter, it's like they talk about the war of the 9 kings or 7 kings. It's like, where'd all these other people come from? So, I just have some questions about that stuff. Like, I don't
Well,
know.
so I guess really what it comes down to is people treat. I'm going to be use generalities here. A lot of people treat the Bible as if it's like exact the Word of God, and this is all you need, and this all that happened, which is bullshit and really stupid to believe that. It's
Right.
just a random. It's just books that they took that were like put together. Imagine if, like, let me use this as an example. Like, imagine right now if you were given the task of, okay, you need to put together the history of the universe and the world, like the human race and the universe and the people in the universe. Now you need to put together this book. You have a couple years to do it, and you can't write any of it yourself. You have to scrape the internet and scrape other books and grab things and combine them. And then when you do all of that, you now have to give that to the president, give it to the king at the time, King James. You have to give it to the king, and then he's going to take out and restrict anything that he feels like doesn't support him and like give him
Right.
power. And then you're going to ask to fill in the rest. And also, it can't be too long. It's got to be really short because people have to be able to read it. And yeah, let's see how that goes. It's going to be trash. It's going to be what the
All
Bible
right.
is, where it's like, oh, how did the universe start? Oh, well, there's a big bang, and then we don't know what happened, and then we're here, and then like it's going to be bullcrap. Like, you can't use the
Yeah.
Bible as a, oh, this is what happened. It's all the Bible is stories. It's just stories of, this is the things that we can remember. Some of them are going to be fake. Some of them are going to be true. Some of them are going to be just analogy, like things that are you're supposed to learn a lesson from. And it's up to you to figure all that out, or to just not read it at all. Now, I read it many times because I grew up in a very religious household where we read the scriptures every morning and every night, like
Mm,
every day. I read through the Bible countless times, cover to cover, and so I know it fairly well. But even then, would you like, by doing that, like I've learned, is just stories. Like, now that doesn't mean
right.
it's bad. That doesn't mean you can't learn things from it. It doesn't mean you can't, like, every time you read the Bible you can't learn new stuff. But the same thing would go for any like great book. Like, you could read like a
Yeah.
big epic book, and it will also teach you stories every time you read it. It's nothing special.
I wonder where these like rituals and stuff came from that like people like Aleister Crowley and other people, Joseph Smith even, right? Like, did these rituals come from the Bible? Because I don't think I've ever seen anything in there that is similar,
Yes,
right?
do
Like
you,
protected circles and
so
stuff like that.
let
Like,
me ask. Yeah, let me ask you about. So I can kind of lead you with a few questions here. Kind of get your thoughts on this. If those things were there, why would they be taken out?
I guess if it were me and I was trying to control people, I would take those things out because I wouldn't want them to be able to, I don't know, contact those beings and
They want you
have
want to be the
independence or
one.
something. I'm not sure.
You'd want to be the one that they're going through. So look at the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church, for the
Right.
longest time, tried to hold on to that control. They had the Bible written in a language that only they could read, and they taught that's like, though, the only way to go to get to God is through us. It was all about them and giving them money and giving them power. And so they were the people you had to go to get to God. And so anything that bypasses them, anything that bypasses the church and lets you go directly to God or directly to any kind of spiritual or religious experiences, were outlawed. The same thing is happening now, and like especially like in the 60s, the same kind of thing happened with drugs, where things like, oh,
Mm.
we can do these drugs that unlock our third eye and let us contact this other dimension and see this other realm where we learn about peace and love. We could all like
Talking about like
experience each other.
LSD and all that.
LSD and mushrooms
Yeah.
and things that let you experience more of what reality really is, and how we're all connected and we're all kind of one being that's learning and growing together. And when you have that mindset, you don't want to go to war. You don't want to go to work. You don't want to spend your entire life in a cubicle or in a mine shaft getting coal. Like, you don't want to do those things. And so the government needs that power. So they outlawed all those things that would allow you to bypass them and get enlightenment in a different way. It's the same thing as the
Where do you
Catholic
think
Church
they
too.
learned those things from then?
When you say those people, what do you mean? Like people that know about it?
Like Joseph Smith and Aleister Crowley, like where did they learn those rituals?
I think with every person it's different, but I think so. I think originally it would be people that, just like with science, people that try things and then learn, like get a result of, if I do this, like if I eat this mushroom,
Mm.
it's safe to eat. If I do this, it's not safe to eat. If I do this, this happens. It's, action reaction. So people originally would be find something that works and go, oh, if I add to this, well, if I go a little bit further with this, oh, what if I do this? And then they would meet entities, and those entities would then teach them more. So if, like, let's say, for example, with mushrooms, you eat this mushroom and you go on a trip and you meet God. You meet like these entities that are in this other realm. The people call them the mechanical elves. You meet the elves, and then they teach you things. And they go, and you go, oh, so I can enhance this experience more and do this if I do this. Or
Mm.
you meet something that was scary and dangerous, and you're like, how can I protect myself from that thing? Maybe if I create a barrier and I create a circle in a physical realm, and I put, you start to try things out and see what works. And then as you know what works, you become a shaman. And then the shaman teaches the people, this is what you do, and this is how you deal with these things. You come to the shaman when you have some kind of spiritual experience, and I'll teach you how to deal with it. And I'll help you go through spirit journeys and do drugs in order to learn these things yourself and how to deal with these situations yourself. And then those things get passed on, and people write them down. And then obviously the powers that be, religions, governments, don't want you to do any of that because they want you to focus on them. So they try to get rid of that as much as possible. But the knowledge is still out there. You just have to do it. But you also have to be free enough that you are okay with criticism. Like, I guarantee you, like, just me talking about this online, if this podcast ever gets traction, I'm gonna be made fun of relentlessly for the fact that I believe in demons and magic and things that people are going to call me crazy and I'm a schizo and things like that because I claim to have experienced these things. And so
Right.
you have to have enough
Well, that's why I want to give it a
self-confidence to not
try.
care. Yeah, you have to have enough
Like
self-confidence to
I'm
not
coming
care what
from
people
it.
think.
I'm pretty skeptical about it in general. I've had some experiences meditating and doing those sorts of things where uh there was it's you know hard to say, man. Like I think I need to do that again in order to really figure out whether or not I just made that shit up. Um I don't think I did. I don't think it was all in my head, but you
So,
never
so,
know.
so it also comes down to shared experiences, though, and whether you think other
Yeah, that's
people are
true.
lying. Because, like, you shared the thing to me, and I had things. I'm like, yes, it was like this. And you're like, yeah, it was like that. Like, and so, but then it's like, well, is he lying? Like, so you have to determine whether you think I'm lying
So
or not.
maybe next time for the next episode, what I could do is we could talk about my crazy meditation experience
Sure, that'd
and
be
what that
great.
was like, and then because I mean it was a couple years ago, but I still remember it
Yeah,
very well. And then if you want to, you can talk maybe about some experiences you've had, and we can kind of compare those notes. And then I'd also like to talk about. Uh, I think we should find a ritual that we could do that's just like we'll call it like a starter one,
yeah,
and then just see how that goes. Because
sure.
I'm just interested in that, and I've always been interested in that stuff, and I want to make sure I do it the correct way. I want to make sure I do it safe, but I also am just curious, you know.
So with that, I would say this week spend more time thinking about that. When you say you're curious, I would recommend you have something specific that you're curious about, because when you say, oh, like, I'm curious, like, I want to see what happens,
I'm
it's like
curious
you have to have
about
a
if
specific
there
question.
is something else out there. Like I believe there is,
So
but
what so what
I want proof.
so two things part of that. What do you mean by something else out there? And then the second question to that, what would it take for you to have proof? Like, what type of experience would you need to have
Mm,
to be proof? So what is it that you actually wanted? Because when you say something else out there, that could mean anything.
right, right,
What
right.
what do you
Yeah, I'll
mean by
think
that?
about that,
And
and
then
I'll think
what would it
about
actually
that.
take?
We'll talk about that next time. I'll think about it. I'll write some stuff down.
Okay. All right.
Cool. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Not really. I just enjoyed talking about this. It's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of the books, again, if people are interested, is the Book of the Law, right?
Yep. So I'll give a few book recommendations.
Yeah.
The Book of the Law, I would definitely recommend. I would only recommend reading the Book of the Law if you're familiar with theological writings and how to read basically religious texts. Like if you're familiar with reading religious texts, I would definitely recommend reading the Book of the Law. If you're not familiar with reading religious texts, I wouldn't recommend it. And what the reason for that being is it's just not going to make sense to you, because with religious texts, you have to kind of learn that they're very self-referential. They're referencing um they're using terminology and words and and definitely like old English and like things that if you just are go and read it, you're just gonna not understand what they're talking about. So if you are familiar with reading religious text, read read that book. If not, then yeah, I'd wait a little bit. Until then, some books I could definitely recommend is another one I have here on my desk. It's right here. This is basically the original starter book. Like if you haven't read anything theology,
That's the one that has the relaxation ritual, right?
No, this one's the Kabbalion. This one is like
Oh.
very basic reading, but very good.
Oh, the other one's the magic, right? Yeah.
Here is on my desk, the Book of the Law, the little red book.
Yeah.
Book of the Law.
Okay.
Those are both great books. If you're looking for more practical, like everyday, like
that's it right there.
to
Modern
actually
magic.
like do rituals and things like that. Modern magic's great. It's less about the philosophy of things. Both those other books were about the philosophy, and this one's more about like do this and then you'll get this kind of result. And then,
Maybe we should pull something from there then.
Yeah.
See what we can figure out.
If you don't want to do the safe stuff, if you want to go into more shit that's going to get you results, but you are okay with putting a lot of work in, then Libriaba, Aleister Crowley's Magic Book 4. That is what I would recommend. But as you can see, it's very thick and it requires a lot of work. You're going to be doing yoga. You're going to be meditating many hours a day. You're going to be doing stuff that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So if you don't want to put that in, don't do that book.
Cool. Sounds like a plan. All right. Well, thanks for sticking with us if you stuck till the end of the episode. And we'll see you guys in the next one. So have a good one. See ya.